When I heard the news out of Vegas, I was alarmed, but unfortunately not surprised.
Republican California Congressman Kevin Kiley wasn't surprised because a federal report he asked Congress to write shows the man suspected of running an illegal biolab in Las Vegas was known to have ties to our area and Nevada as early as 2023.
America, a federal judge just released the property manager connected to the Las Vegas biolab. And here's the kicker. It's an Airbnb where Chinese nationals were running refrigerators full of biological agents just 4.5 miles away from Nellis Air Force Base.
The CDC never tested any of the vials and everything was destroyed. We never got answers on what was going on there.
But here's what should terrify you. This is the exact same operation that was discovered in Reedley, California 3 years ago. Federal documents from 2023 mention Las Vegas ties multiple times. California officials begged the FBI to investigate. The federal government ignored them until a housekeeper got deathly ill and called the cops.
Lord knows what might have happened if she hadn't stumbled upon this and gotten deathly ill.
Or if there could be others out there as well.
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This is a follow-up video that we did a few days ago where we did a deep dive into the biolabs and its links to Reedley, California, and that particular case. If you want to catch up to that case, check out that entire video after this one. The link will be above and in the description down below. I'll also post it after the video as well. Let me start with the person who actually exposed this operation because it wasn't the FBI. It wasn't DHS. It wasn't local law enforcement. It was the housekeeper who got so sick that she thought she was going to die. The housekeeper was contacted by Ari Solomon, the property manager who just got released by a federal judge. She was told to shut and lock the door leading to the garage. People renting the Airbnb were prohibited from using the garage. She looked inside anyways, and she saw 3 refrigerators plugged in and large glass beakers filled with unknown reddish liquid.
5 days after being in that garage, both the house cleaner and Michael reportedly got deathly ill, describing symptoms of trouble breathing, fatigue, and muscle aches.
She thought that she was going to die, and she wasn't alone. Michael, another man who worked for Solomon, got deathly ill with the same symptoms. So did Solomon's wife. So did a lot of people who lived inside the house. One woman ended up at the hospital with severe respiratory issues. But here's what makes this case even more sinister. Solomon's wife and multiple residents got sick, yet Solomon kept operating the Airbnb. He kept renting it out to unsuspected guests. He kept telling people to stay out of the garage. And when investigators finally showed up, they found multiple refrigerators, a freezer, laboratory equipment, and numerous bottles and jugs containing unknown liquid substances. Metro Police initially observed hydrochloric acid, which in its pure form can cause substantial permanent injury or death. They found suspected biological agents. They found hazardous chemicals. And all this was sitting in a garage of an Airbnb where families were staying just feet away from potential bioweapons. Now, let me show you the federal failure that allowed this lab to operate for years while officials in California were screaming for help, because this isn't incompetence. This is willful neglect here. California Congressman Kevin Kiley wasn't surprised when the Vegas lab was discovered. Why? Because a federal report he asked Congress to write shows a man suspected of running an illegal biolab in Las Vegas. David He was also known to have ties to Nevada as early as 2023.
Frankly, when we came up with our legislation shortly after all of this was discovered, we have not seen it moved forward with the urgency that I think was necessary.
Kevin introduced legislation after the Reedley discovery. The federal response, he says, was very slow, according to city officials. Nicole Zeba, the city manager of Reedley, said her team found He's ties to Las Vegas from a simple search, but any further federal investigation stopped at the state line. Think about that for a second. A Chinese national running an illegal biolab in California with pathogens like HIV, malaria, tuberculosis, and possible Ebola. City officials found his ties to Las Vegas through a basic Google search. They reported it to the FBI, and the FBI does nothing until somebody calls the cops with a tip 3 years later.
I don't know where the FBI's focus was obviously not Vegas.
She says her teams found He's ties to Las Vegas from simple searches, but it appears any further federal investigation stopped at the state line.
Las Vegas is listed in these federal documents from 3 years ago and a congressional report, and that it wasn't until someone called with a tip about this possible biolab that now it is exposed.
Nicole Ziba said it perfectly. I don't know where the FBI's focus was, obviously not in Vegas. And when asked if she was disappointed, she said, yeah, I'm disappointed. That is the understatement of the year so far. The FBI had 3 years to investigate. They had federal documents mentioning Las Vegas ties. They had California officials begging for help, and they did nothing until a housekeeper got deathly ill and local cops raided the property. And here's where the story goes from negligence to cover up. A federal judge just released Ari Solomon, the property manager who operated the Airbnb where the biolab was hidden, and the reasons are going to make you pretty pissed off. He faces no charges connected to the actual biolab.
The property manager connected to a suspected biolab here in Las Vegas will get freedom as a case linked to last weekend's raid moves forward.
Solomon is an Israeli citizen here on a non-immigrant visa. During the raid, the FBI found guns, which he's not allowed to own on his visa. In a jail call, he mentioned those guns to a family member, so the feds charged him with illegal gun possession. But the biolab, the hazardous material, the biological agents that made multiple people deathly ill, no charges. The judge ordered his release because he lived in the community for over 2 decades. He's a property manager for dozens of properties, and there's no federal charge yet connected to that particular biolab. He has to surrender his passport and tell the court if he decides to leave the county. That's it. But here's what the judge didn't consider, at least in my opinion. Solomon operated an Airbnb with the biolab in the garage. He told renters they were prohibited from using the garage. Multiple people who worked for him or lived in the house got deathly ill. One woman ended up in the hospital with severe respiratory issues. And when investigators showed up, they found hydrochloric acid and suspected biological agents. Yet federal prosecutors didn't even ask the judge to detain him. They charged him with the gun violation and let him walk away. Why? Because charging him with the biolab-related crimes would require admitting the federal government knew about this operation for 3 years and did nothing. Now, for those of you that didn't watch the video, let me introduce you to the man that actually owns the Las Vegas property and is already sitting in federal prison for running this exact same operation in California. Jia Baoju, also known as David He. He is a Chinese national who got caught running an illegal biolab in Reedley, California in 2023.
They had live COVID-19, live tuberculosis, live HIV, live handful of other diseases. They also had over 1,000 humanized mice they were doing experiments on, part of the process of making these counterfeit COVID test kits.
Now, let me show you why Senator Tom Cotton is sounding the alarm. Because this isn't just about one lab in Las Vegas or one lab in California. This is about a pattern of Chinese nationals running illegal biolabs across America while the federal government looks the other way.
They should be worried, not just for those airmen, but for everyone in Las Vegas and Nevada and really all across the country. It wouldn't take much of these deadly pathogens to kill thousands of Americans.
The Vegas lab was 4.5 miles away from Nellis Air Force Base. If those pathogens would have been released accidentally or intentionally, you would have killed thousands of airmen and civilians. And here's what makes this even more terrifying. There are very limited controls on provisions of deadly pathogens to end users in the United States. If you want to start a virus testing lab, it's not that difficult, apparently. You can register it. You can buy humanized mice for about $7 each. You can buy live viruses and you can experiment on them.
In the United States, there are really not any strong regulations against doing this. Basically, in the United States, if you want to start up a virus testing lab, It's not that difficult.
The Reedley lab was in the back of a recycling center that used to be a refrigeration chamber for the local rail line. The Vegas lab was a garage at an Airbnb. These aren't advanced facilities here. These are makeshift operations in residential areas, and there's almost nothing stopping Chinese nationals from setting them up. Cotton introduced legislation to put more controls in place to make sure anybody dealing with these pathogens knows their end user and only gives it to certified and responsible parties like national labs, the military, or research universities. But that legislation hasn't passed yet. And in the meantime, many of those labs are still operating right now. America, a Chinese national ran an illegal biolab in an Airbnb garage 4.5 miles away from Nellis Air Force Base. Multiple people got deathly ill from the exposure to unknown biological agents. Federal documents from 2023 mention Las Vegas ties to the Reedley, California lab, where the same Chinese nationals were caught with HIV, tuberculosis, malaria, and possible Ebola. California officials begged the FBI to investigate. The FBI ignored them for 3 years. It took a housekeeper looking for lemon pledge getting deathly ill before local cops finally raided the property. And now the property manager walks free with no biolab charges. The Chinese national who owns the property is already in federal prison. Senator Tom Cotton is asking the right questions here. How many more labs are out there? Because if Chinese nationals can run biolabs in Airbnb garages with almost no federal oversight, this is a systematic infiltration of American communities with potential bioweapons. The federal government knew about this for 3 years and did nothing. Now they're trying to downplay it by charging the property manager with gun possession instead of biolab operation. But the evidence doesn't lie. Chinese nationals are running illegal biolabs on American soil, and the feds seemingly are trying to cover it up. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.